Malt is grain that's been modified from its natural state by a process called malting. Malt is the process that makes the raw barley or other grain ready for the brewing process. Malt is comprised of the base malt and may also include specialty malts, unmalted grains, and adjuncts. Specialty malts are those which might include other grains such as wheat or rye. Adjuncts can be used to extend the barley portion of the malt, so they can be something that's used for the purpose of cost reduction. Generally, adjuncts are used to impart something special or distinctive to the beer. This might include a variation on color, special flavor character, or to affect the foaming quality. So, adjuncts are especially important in craft beers. Adjuncts can either be liquid or solid. Liquid adjuncts are generally some type of sugar, so sucrose, dextrose, corn syrup, or even honey. Solid adjuncts are generally other cereals such as wheat, oats, or rye, and they can be in different forms: whole grain, grits, or flakes. For example, oats are available in various forms: whole, steel cut, rolled, and flaked. The addition of oats to a malt can result in a stout or a porter with a smooth, silky, and creamy mouthfeel. Unmalted wheat is an adjunct that is common in wheat beers. Flaked wheat is also used in wheat beers and adds more sharpness to the flavor than does malted wheat. Keep in mind that the choice and the proportion of the adjuncts will affect the final taste of the beer. The sweetness, the bitterness, the different flavor characteristics, the foaming, as well as the body and the mouthfeel. Barley is the primary cereal grain used in malt. In terms of tonnage worldwide, barley is the fourth largest cereal grain grown after wheat, corn, and rice. Barley is an ancient grain originally domesticated in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East in what was formerly Mesopotamia, now Syria and Iraq. Barley was used for brewing beer in ancient times, although I'm sure that the beer from that time didn't taste very much like today's beers. In beer, barley is the source of the carbohydrates that will be fermented by the yeast to produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. The Latin name for barley is Hordeum vulgare, and it's a member of the grass family. In Anglo-Saxon times, the barley corn was used as a standard for length. The length of 3 barley corns equaled an inch. Now, the range in length of barley corns can be from 6 to 12 millimeters, but for Anglo-Saxon purposes, the length of 1 barley corn was standardized as 8.5 millimeters in length. In contemporary times in the U.S., the length of a barley corn is used to determine shoe size. If you wear a size 4 shoe, for example, your foot is approximately 25 centimeters long. The structure of a grain of barley includes these parts: the embryo, which is the baby plant, the endosperm, which is the food for the baby plant and makes up about 75% of the weight of the grain, the husk, which is the outer wrapping of the grain, the pericarp, the testa, and the alurone layer. The alurone layer releases enzymes which make the food reserves available to the growing plant. Barley that is specifically developed and grown for brewing beer is referred to as malting barley. Other barleys are used for animal feed and for flours for baked goods. Barley varieties come in what is known as 2-row or 6-row. The 2-row varieties have the kernels arranged in 2 rows along the length of the ear, and the 6-row varieties have 6 rows, with the kernels in 4 of the rows slightly thinner than the other 2 rows. The difference between these two has to do mainly with the proportion of starch and protein in the grain. The 6-row has smaller grains, and therefore the proportion of protein to starch is higher than in the 2-row varieties, which have larger grains. The selection of the variety, whether the maltster chooses 2-row or 6-row, has to do with the desired proportion of starch to protein in the finished beer. The best barley varieties for malting are those that are high yielding, that have kernels of the correct size, that take up water rapidly during steeping, that begin germinating quickly and evenly, provide the desired proportion of starch and proteins, deliver high enzyme activity, and give a high percentage of malt extract.